episode, I want to let you know about my groundbreaking program, Breaking the Chains of Avoidance, a program designed just for avoidant men to help them from going from avoidance of relationships and love into deep connection and the abilities to create deep connection and lasting relationships. Right. So if you're interested in this, if avoidance is ruining your dating life and your relationships, just go down to the description below and you can put yourself onto the wait list so that you can get a huge discount off when I launch the program in a few weeks. The program will be starting on the 22nd of April, so don't delay. We don't often realize that we are in some part of us is benefiting from the kind of emotion that we habitually are feeling. Like if it's frustration or sadness, typically I see with people who are like sad, their thing is they get to complain to everybody. They get to be the victim. They get to be the person. Or if they're people who are being, they feel they're being abused. And I think I say that more in a sense of like maybe taken for granted, for instance. They get the attention of the kind of victim and so forth. Or the person who has kind of suppressed anger, their payoff could be all manner of things. But there's this hidden payoff that we aren't aware of, that we get to it's like a dark joy we get to experience. Some part of us gets some dark joy and that's feeding us. So how do we go about finding out what is that hidden payoff that we are often quite addicted to?
You have nailed that, and that's beautifully described, David. So let's do this at three levels. Let's do this at the psychological level, the scientific level, and then the spiritual level. Okay. So what's the hidden payoff? So the first thing to understand, really, honestly, what I'm about to share with you, I strongly, strongly recommend you pause it and you write these things down or stop and listen to this again. Because when you really understand the purpose of emotions, your whole perspective on your life will change. Emotions color every aspect of your life, absolutely everything. It's the one constant. So psychologically, we know that emotions help us survive and thrive. It was Darwin in 1881 that started writing about this, and then various people afterwards have done a lot of studies on this. So anger is there to defend resources. Sadness is there to help you seek support and for introspection and reflection. And fear is there for danger, of course, to help us make us aware when there's danger. So now we can see, right, these emotions, they have a psychological payoff for us, which can be positive, right? Like you said, sadness, you get support from other people. Fear can help us prevent something could be physically dangerous for us. And anger is going to help us defend our resources. But then neurochemically, how this happens, how we become addicted, is because these emotions are for our survival, which is stimulating. It stimulates you, right? If you think about the nervous system, rest and digest, fight and flight, fight, flight, freeze, these neurochemicals that get released in negative emotions, they temporarily help you feel more on. So you're more alert, you're more aware of your surroundings and your danger, your blood pressure goes up, heart rate goes up, etc., etc., etc. So it does make you feel temporarily a little bit better, which is why we are in a whole cycle. To go through this just a little bit more depth, there's basically three brain systems described by Professor Paul Gilbert, who's an incredible professor from Derby. He writes a lot about compassion. And he says we've got a threat system, we've got a wanting system, and a soothe system. So basically, in the modern world, we are moving between the threat and wanting system. Right, the payoff we often get is we get a little buzz of the adrenaline and cortisol, and that in a way kind of drives us to want more stuff, dopamine, and then we're in this kind of scrolling social media, sugar, sex, all these instant gratification. Essentially, we're in this loop. So that's the hidden payoff that we get. Now, at a deeper level, at a more spiritual level, and this is quite profound. I don't know how deep you guys want to go into it, but the other weird payoff that we get at a spiritual level is we get to continue to uphold this belief of our insignificance. right? To say that we are not as powerful as we think we are. We are not as infinite, as limitless, as eternal. We are not pure potential, because look, I've got these problems in my life and I'm experiencing these negative emotions. And so it plays into the whole conditioning of the world. It wants you to be small, wants you to be in your, limited state. And that's one of the most challenging things to break free from. Because when you realize that, okay, I'm addicted to these states, unworthiness, etc. It's the most liberating thing that you'll ever experience when you start to kind of realize, okay, I don't need to govern my whole life based on these glasses that tell me that I'm not capable, worthy, good enough. And it's very profound when that happens. So.
You described the addiction there. This addiction to the instant gratification, and also the I kind of hear in what you're saying around the belief. The ego comes in again. It's like, we have this belief that we're not good enough, or we are insignificant in some way, or not lovable. And though there's a part of us that wants to disprove this belief, disproving it takes us into an unknown experience. So
yes.
We kind of stay in it, and we can get that. I work a lot in the realm of love and relationship. So a lot of people have beliefs. They come to me and we uncover beliefs around being lovable, being good enough, and the way in which we create the circumstances for us to experience the emotions that reinforce the fact that this belief is true.
Yes.
Someone who, for instance, doesn't believe they're lovable, they may chase relationships constantly, looking for new partners, looking to be loved, being somewhat desperate in love, be overbearing, be too clingy. Then they get dumped, and then they in this woe, but they keep getting to experience themselves as not being lovable, because that is the deep rooted belief that they unconsciously wanted to keep hold of, because if they were to become lovable, then that would expand their limit of who they believe themselves to be. And that is too uncomfortable for the ego to kind of tend with.
That's it. And you've described that so beautifully, David. So the ego wants life. I remember once one of my spiritual teachers, as I alluded to, I shared that when I started to break my own addiction from these negative emotions, my life became chaotic. I went through so much hardship. I started to rewrite the rules in everything in my life, and things got really difficult. I spoke to one of my teachers, and he told me this story about a yogi who was meditating in a cave for 10 years. And he came out and he looked, he thought, oh, I'm not very dirty. That's quite good. When he went down to the river to wash, and as he went down to the river to wash, he realized he was caked in dirt. And my teacher said to me, he said, the purification process has begun. Okay, just now that you've poked the ego wants life, just like how your soul wants life. And now the ego is going to kind of challenge you and bring things up. And yeah, I mean, it's a real challenge to break the addiction. But when you start to do it and you start to realize, oh, I've been addicted to my own stress, I've been addicted to these negative emotions. And you can do that with compassion, right? You can understand, oh, guess what? I have done that, but I'm not alone in that. I'm a human, and we all get addicted to our own suffering. It happens. Then, it leads you to a life of authenticity and freedom and love. And yeah, I do love the example you brought up in love, how we can get addicted to our partners and perhaps, sex-seeking behaviors, whatever these things that make us feel temporarily good, but don't treat the deeper cause.